Making wise choices. Mastering modal verbs for advice in English. Hello, language enthusiasts. Today, we're going to explore an essential part of English grammar: modal verbs for advice. These modal verbs are powerful tools that can help you express suggestions, recommendations, and advice more effectively. So, if you're excited to deepen your understanding and improve your conversational English, let's dive right in. Modal verbs are special types of verbs that we use to express various states of necessity, possibility, permission, or ability. But today, our focus will be on their role in giving advice. The primary modal verbs we use for this purpose are should, ought to, and had better. Should is probably the most common modal verb used for giving advice in English. It's relatively neutral and can be used in both formal and informal contexts. For example, you might say, "You should study for the test," to suggest that studying for the test is a good idea. Ought to is another modal verb used for advice. It is very similar to should, but is often considered slightly more formal. An example of its use is, "You ought to apologize for your mistake," implying that apologizing is the right or expected action. Now, let's talk about had better. This one is a bit stronger and usually implies a warning or a consequence if the advice is not followed. For example, "You had better leave now, or you'll miss the bus." In this sentence, missing the bus is the potential consequence of not following the advice. When choosing the right modal verb for advice, consider the situation and the level of urgency. Use should for general advice, ought to when you want to sound a bit more formal or serious, and had better when there's a sense of urgency or possible negative consequence. And that's a wrap for today's lesson on modal verbs for advice. Remember, understanding these modal verbs is a great way to enhance your English communication skills. Try using them in your everyday conversations to see how they can transform your ability to give and understand advice. Keep practicing, keep learning, and I'll see you in our next lesson. Happy studying!